Order your man to step aside or there will be violence.
I choose violence.
Welcome to the WSHA Cafe. My guest today is Sophie Turner. You have Game of Thrones coming out season 6. This is 6th season of the show. What makes this show, this season, different than past seasons?
This season, the past 5 seasons have kind of been everyone spreading out and going their separate ways, and it's very sparse. And season 6 feels like everything is kind of coming together and storylines intertwining and people are forming alliances with other characters and everyone's kind of coming towards the same goal.
Now, of course, you play Sansa Stark on the show, yes. A young noblewoman who's had a series of bad marriages. Now, how are things going to turn out for Sansa this time around? I mean, are we going to see her mature more or confront some other kinds of issues in this new season?
Yeah, this season is about her taking charge and being a leader rather than just like a pawn in someone else's game. So this is a big season for her. She's really going to thrive this season. Because
the last time we saw her, she was jumping off a castle wall with Theon, and we didn't know whether they landed or how they landed. And we can see from the previews that maybe you landed.
I was really worried for a while because in the script it says, you know, they like jump into a big pile of snow, and some people didn't see the snow, so then people were asking me on carpets like, is Sansa dead? And I was like, I don't know. Yes. Because like I didn't know that people couldn't see the snow, so then I was pretending to everyone that I was like, oh, it's ambiguous, like who knows. But yes, no, she did. I can confirm she landed in a pile of snow.
Now, have you had a sit down with the creators of the show, or have you had a sit down with even George R.R. Martin, sort of talk about your character and her future and where she's going?
No, they won't tell us. They won't tell us a thing until the scripts come out for the season. So, I mean, I constantly pester David and Dan, and I remember like two years ago, just before Sansa gets married to Ramsay, the season before, and I was asking them like, is anything going to happen? Is anything exciting going to happen? They were like, she has a love interest. I was like, are you kidding me? This season after, I found out it was Ramsay.
Let's talk about that, because now you're 20, I feel like I can talk to you about this, the whole Ramsay rape scene.
Yeah.
A lot of people found it very disturbing. Yeah. Some people thought it was a realistic depiction of things that might have happened in that kind of a culture.
Yeah.
Looking back on that, how do you feel about the scene? I know you've said that you actually you enjoyed performing it as an actress, but now you've had the benefit of some months and years to think about it. How do you feel about the way that scene went down and the way it was conceived?
I felt, when I read that scene, I felt, okay, first as an actress, this is a challenge, it's exciting, I'll do it. Obviously, maybe I really enjoyed it, wasn't the best way to put it. But in those times, in that situation, those things did happen.
My father said you're still a virgin.
And we're not a show, obviously, to kind of distract from the brutality of those times.
Yes.
And so it kind of felt like it would almost feel like an injustice if you know, we saw it through rose-tinted glasses and we, you know, made it a fairy tale version of what it would have been. And also, the way it went down and the way that people received it, it was expected. I expected controversy. But also, there's so much happening in the real world that no one speaks about, that it almost felt wrong that so many people were paying attention to this scene on television, and yet people aren't speaking about the things that are really happening right now that are big issues, and no one was speaking about it. So I was just kind of like, guys, let's focus on something that really matters here. This is a TV show, you know?
In general, I mean, what is your feeling about the way some of the female characters are depicted in the show? I mean, because your character is quite a journey. She starts off and she's concerned about the way in which, you know, she wants to sort of find her own knight in shining armor. She's thinking about the people in the songs and how she wants to sort of live her life like some of the songs she hears about heroic characters. And then she deepens. She takes on some challenges and she stands up for herself. I mean, but do you think in general, do you like the depiction of women in Game of Thrones? Or do you have any thoughts about that?
I think the depiction of women in Game of Thrones is a really nice depiction of women. I think back then, women didn't have half the power that they do in the show.
My queen.
My queen.
And this isn't popular opinion, but it's definitely a feminist show, I believe.
A feminist show? You call
I
Game of
believe
Thrones
so.
a feminist show?
Yeah, I
Interesting.
do.
Now, why is that?
Because, as I say, back then, you know, women didn't have the power to control kingdoms, and they weren't becoming the strongest characters in life. And in this show, some of the strongest characters are the female characters. But obviously, we have to cater to, you know, the times that they're in, and so there are those social boundaries put upon them, but they break out of them in this show.
Rise. Remove your help.
And that's why I think it's quite feminist.
Now, of course, Game of Thrones also always has surprises. Your character has been involved in a lot of shocking scenes throughout the course of the 6 seasons. Can we expect more shocks out of your storyline? I mean, are we going to have Red Wedding-style shocks in store for us when we watch this new season?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Red Wedding, because Red Wedding, I mean, that's a big moment in the series.
It was a
We
big
will see
moment.
shocks as big as that in the season coming up?
I mean, Game of Thrones never disappoints. I think there are huge shocks this season. This, in my opinion, and I say it every season, but I actually mean it this time, it's the best season yet, and it's really going to blow people's minds, and fans are going to be very happy with this season as well.
Now, how would you say you don't know how your character will wind up, but how would you want Sansa Stark to end up? If you were writing the books yourself and not George R.R. Martin, how would you sort of wrap up your character's story?
I don't want to survive.
You don't want to survive.
And I want Littlefinger to end up on the throne.
Lord Baelish.
Call me Peter.
But wait a second. So, as an actress, you actually don't want to survive Game of Thrones. In the end, you would like to see your character killed off.
Well, I think if you're on Game of Thrones and you don't have a cool death scene, then what's the point? I think it would be really disappointing if I got to the end and I was just okay.
Well, on that note, Sophie Turner, thanks a lot for coming to the Wall Street Journal. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
I've never been much of a fighter. Apologies for what you're about to see.